My name's Phil. I'm from Physiotherapy and Training, and I'm in Black Box testing the ANCORE system today. Running through a couple of rehab protocols that I might do with people in the clinic. I'm going to start off with some upper limb rehab, so low level rehab for guys coming in with maybe rotator cuff injuries or long-headed biceps issues, tendonitis in the shoulder. What I would try and get people to do is to create co-contractions through the arm at the elbow joint and at the wrist joint in the directions that they're weak. So for example, at a low level setting on the ANCORE, we can get pressure through the fingertips, create that small bend at the knee and contract the bicep and tricep. This, as an isometric exercise, can start to help coordinate and improve loading in that area of the long-headed biceps. And what we can start to do with the ANCORE is add in perturbation, so add in some pulses through long-headed biceps. And that can create load tolerance through that area if they have tendonitis through there. And I'll start to share the load through the rest of the muscles of the arm. Similarly, you can do posterior direction. So we can get the long-headed triceps, we can get the forearms to interact and create force in a posterior direction. So same again, we would try to get the co-contraction at the elbow joint, slight elbow bend, pressure through the fingertips, and we're going for a posterior force. You should have equal amounts from the forearm, the bicep, the tricep, and the lats as well. Everything's doing its job, and you can travel through a range of motion in that posterior direction. Once again, you can start to challenge the person by adding in perturbations or pulses, and then you can start to increase the speed and you can increase the load as that person advances through rehab. A lot of people come in with issues with oblique loading as well. So I work with a lot of guys that are very stiff through the trunk, and that comes from like loads of sagittal plane lifting. So if you squat like loads of times, 4 or 5 times a week, it's very likely you're stuck in the sagittal plane. You're very straight forwards and backwards, and there's not much rotation in your game. So the ANCORE allows you to train that. Again, starting at a low level, you can start nice and light, and you can work with your trunk rotation. And this could be for low level rehab guys as well. This is especially be important if somebody is recovering from, if they do contact sports and they have rib injuries and they're trying to get the intercostals and the obliques firing and moving again. But you can work this right up to the high level rehab, especially with golfers. Again, with rugby players and contact sports, you want to be getting rotation with force. So you can start to generate force even from the legs, from that big toe of the standing leg, and get more power into your rotation. This will be essential for high level rehab and when you're increasing speed in that transverse plane. So any rotation in your sport whatsoever, you will need to train that in a rehab setting if you're returning from injury. Another really good aspect about this is we can train stability. So if somebody's recovering from a knee injury, a meniscus for example, again this would be a little bit further down the rehab, but what you can do is get them into single leg stand and create challenge or perturbations or movement with the ANCORE system. So you can go into your single leg stand position and then bring in a bit of trunk rotation as well. So it's very challenging, this one, but it's going to create stability forces through the knee. And with high level guys, you're going to start to increase those movements. You'll feel the foot working hard, you'll feel the quads, hamstrings, calf, everything really lighten up, your glute muscle stabilizing, and then your obliques as your trunk is rotating. This will be really, really good for golfers. One thing that a lot of people lack is that ability to get onto the inside of the foot, to internally rotate and to pronate into the foot. And this allows you to train that with force. Again, very, very good for golfers. They're having to use the hip on this side to internally rotate. You're having to supinate this foot and externally rotate and rotate at the trunk. So I'll adjust this, add a little bit of weight on. And another exercise you can do with this is a single leg Romanian deadlift with a row combination. All sorts of stability challenge here through the obliques, through the hamstrings of the standing leg. So single leg stand on the middle of the foot. You're going to hinge at the hip. You'll feel the stretch of that hamstring. You'll pivot at the hip joint. And it's a real challenge to get that row. Of course, you've got, I'll move this up a bit. So I know a lot of people like to warm up the shoulders with their internal, external rotations of the shoulder joint. A lot of people with rotator cuff injuries will be familiar with this. It's easy just to throw the ANCORE on the rack and go for internal, external rotation through range. So there's my internal rotation of the shoulder, keeping the elbow joint fixed into the side, and getting pressure through the fingertips, making sure that you're transmitting the force the whole way to your hand. For external rotation, same applies. You're going for your elbow tucked into the side and an external rotation at the shoulder. I'm probably letting my elbow come too far out there. I want to keep that snug and rotate at the shoulder joint. You can also go for different angles. You can perform your external rotation with 90 degrees shoulder abduction. Upper limb injuries to get loading through the pec muscles. And if you have two of these, you can go for a pec fly. I like to do it with a single arm as well to create load through the pec and through the long head of biceps tendon as well, because you'll get all sorts of loading through the front of the shoulder. Anybody with pain or impingement at the front of the shoulder will know all about this, and we need to load those tissues. We need to generate load in that area. So you can go for a cross body pec fly. This is with a normal grip. However, I like to get some patients in the clinic to go through fingertips as they go for that cross body. The reason that we get people to press through the fingertips is that we're creating a co-contraction of muscles around the wrist joint as well. You need to be able to transmit force the whole way through the elbow joint and the wrist joint to successfully get to the fingertips. And you'll know if you're a contact sports athlete or a rugby player that you need to hand somebody off that you need those forces to get from here, from your big muscles in your chest and your back, the whole way to your fingertips to be effective. Apart from that, we can double up the ANCORE, get one on each rack. We can go for our pec flies, we can go for our bicep curls, we can go for our tricep extensions to finish off with a bit of a gym pump. So this is my first time using the ANCORE. I would highly recommend it. I've been using resistance bands up until now. The reason I haven't got a cable system is because of the expense. So this offers an affordable solution. It's adjustable and it can go onto any rack. The resistance is really consistent over the course of the pull, which is different from resistance bands that I've been using so far. So I would highly recommend the ANCORE system.